Hello, mysterious person behind the screen. So, Rosa, yes, I think I'm going to try and keep this quick because there's a lot to cover in here, and this is the type of episode that, more than any other, will be the victim of one of my rambly nonsense videos. So I'm going to try and get it through quick. I adored this episode. I adored nearly everything about it. I think it is one of the finest tales that Doctor Who has ever told. I think it's one of my favourite historicals. It's gone down as one of my favourite historicals. It's going to go down as a modern classic. I really, really hope this is going to go down in the history of Doctor Who as one of the greatest stories. An incredibly important episode for a number of reasons in today's society. More than anything, I admire the balls on Chris Chibnall and Mallory Blackman for doing what they did at the time slot they were in on the day they aired it. I just think it's incredibly it's incredibly brave of them to do this, because unfortunately you're going to get a lot of bigots, and this isn't me saying now that you're a sexist and a racist for hating the episode. It's not what I'm saying this at all. What I'm saying is you are going to get bigots who will hate this episode because they will say it's a move for political correctness, or it's pushing an agenda, or it's virtue signalling. For them to use the racial slurs that they did, and some of them, I'm not going to repeat them because they're disgusting, some of them were really harsh, and for them to air that at 7 o'clock on a primetime slot on a Sunday, it took guts. And it took guts for Doctor Who to do what it's always done, and I don't think it's done it in a while, is to tackle these problems head on and recontextualise them in a context in a sci-fi adventure context. And it hasn't done that in a while for me, and I just think what it did, I will be eternally grateful for this, because it confronted a real world issue that happened and is still happening, albeit less so, but it's still happening, it can't be denied, to tackle that head on and to not pull any punches, to show it, how horrific it was, to show that. It really impressed me, and it really impressed me the maturity that they did it with. They treated this with so much respect, because going into this, you might have seen on Twitter, I was looking forward to it all week, and then a few hours before, sort of on the Sunday, I just thought, oh god, I'm really nervous, because this could fail miserably. This could derail the series. It could really derail things, and it could not only affect the series negatively, but also completely devalue what Rosa Parks actually did. And my worries, I didn't need to worry in the end, because it did handle it with respect, and I'm so glad they did, because in lesser hands, my word, this story could have been a complete disaster. It could have been just one of the most offensive and ill-judged episodes in the show's history, but with capable hands like Mallory Blackman behind the wheel, it wasn't. More Mallory Blackman, please, because she's really good. Let's get into my one negative, should we say that? My one big negative about this episode. And I have a few nitpicks, but nothing major. This is the sort of one. Yeah, okay, the villain was not very good. And Krasko was not a very engaging character, but, and this is a big but, I don't think that wasn't the story they were telling. They were focused on, okay, this is Rosa Parks' story. We want a story where the Doctor and her friends meet Rosa Parks, but we need to have a threat in this, and Krasko was the threat. He was there to set the events in motion that would mean the Doctor would have to stay in this time period and investigate, because that's who the Doctor is. She's curious, and she sees something wrong, and she will instantly stay and try and fix it. But I'm completely, this is completely correct, and I apologise. I can't remember who said this. I saw it on Twitter, and if you're watching this, please just speak up in the comments, because I'm totally gonna paraphrase you here and take what you said. I can't remember who said it for the life of me. Kraska was the embodiment of racism, and the fact that he was just a one-note sort of villain who didn't have much personality to him, and that was his main thing. It sort of personifies that, yes, he was the racist, and that's one sort of element of racism, because racism will continue to go on. There are many forms of racism, and he was just the embodiment of one form of racism. That was he was representative of that. Yeah, he's the embodiment of racism, and that's just one part of it, you know. And in that respect, I really don't have a problem with him. It felt like the meddling monk to me, and initially I sort of came out of it going, no, wouldn't have that been cool if he was the meddling monk? Because what he's essentially doing is just meddling in history for the fun of it, and just for his own personal gain, and not necessarily to destroy the world. Just change one thing, everything changes, right? But initially, that was my initial thought, and then I sort of thought about it and thought, no, having the meddling monk there would have taken away from Rosa Parks' story. It would have shifted the focus in, oh my god, the classic character's back, it's a meddling monk, oh my god, he's not been seen since the Time Meddler in the show. It would have taken all the fanfare away from Rosa Parks, and it would have taken the importance out of what her story was. So I'm glad they didn't do it in the end, because he's not the main focus of this tale, it's Rosa Parks. The music, the music, oh my god, it's Sega Akinola proved himself in the first episode, really, but this is the one where I've gone, oh yeah, he's really good. Rosa's theme, the da, 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 it's such a beautiful little refrain that we hear often throughout the episode, and it's most prominent at the end when the Doctor and her friends are just looking out at the asteroid. More on that in a bit. And we just hear it really loudly, and it's just like, in the heart. It's really good. And a lot of the music in general, just so good. He's really good. He's really good. I really want the soundtrack, please. What else? The direction, fantastic as usual. Mark Tonderai, absolutely fantastic. This series is easily the best looking Doctor Who has ever looked, and I can't wait for it to come out on Blu-ray. This episode in particular, when the Doctor's that scene where she goes to the bus driver and says, "Congratulations, you've won a raffle," and it's like he actually hasn't, but that scene just looks stunning with the bright blue sky and her pink top. It's just like, oh, nice. I'm loving the colours. Performance-wise, really good all around. Jodie's great as always. Who do you think you are, Banksy? Of course not. Or am I? Like to see Banksy do that. I bet he hasn't got one of those. Or have I? I don't know. I liked that particularly because it's not really it's not alluded to whether she is Banksy or not. It's sort of implied, and you're sort of left to work it out for yourself. She totally could be, but just as likely she couldn't be, you know. And I kind of like if she's not. That's just the Doctor screwing with people just for fun, because just Jodie plays it to perfection. It's just the deadpan look on her face and the change of her voice. Suddenly, it's just, or am I? It's like it's brilliant comedy, and I just like that idea that the Doctor just does that to screw with people. Graham is excellent. I noticed that Bradley Walsh, his Cockney accent was a lot more pronounced this episode, but that's no bad thing. Ryan and Yaz got their characters got expanded a bit more, which I liked. Yaz is still the weakest one, but she got expanded more, which is very good. And Vanette Robinson as Rosa Parks played to perfection. The accent could have been laughable if she had taken that to the next extreme, but she didn't, and she managed just through facial expressions, even when she wasn't talking, just to convey this. She had this sort of presence on screen that it's like when you are watching it, you get the feeling that you are looking at a piece of history, like a living piece of history, and I just thought she was great. I like I said, I admire, because this episode is what fits the remit of what Doctor Who was originally, which is an educational show. As Sidney Newman says in Adventure in Space and Time, get the kids hooked on real history. And this is essentially what it was. And, you know, a lot of people didn't even know who Rosa Parks is. I sort of knew her through osmosis. I sort of knew her from just people talking about her, but I wasn't taught it in school, and I don't think a lot of people were. And I think that showing her and showing her struggle and showing what black people went through at the time is incredibly important, because this is a family / children's show. As much as some people hate to admit it, it is aimed at a younger audience. Obviously it's aimed at families, but a lot of kids watch the show, and I think tackling this head on and showing kids that this is not okay, and showing kids that it's fine to be who you are, is an incredibly important message, and it's an incredibly important way to get Rosa Parks' story across. And I really, really hope this gets played in classrooms, because this would be an incredible learning tool. And the Ryanair video, which I don't know if you've seen this, but I won't touch on it because it's disgusting, but basically a white passenger refused to sit next to an elderly black woman on a plane, on a Ryanair plane. Ryanair did nothing, and he's just, the video in question, he's just stood there abusing this woman, saying he'll push her to the next seat, and it's just like, it's a horrible, disgusting video. And I think that it's the fact that this episode aired on the same day that this video was rising to prominence, incredibly good timing and incredibly relevant, and it is undeniably one of the most important episodes in all of Doctor Who, just for what it tackled and how important it was. Let's talk about that final scene then. The bit that stayed with a lot of people, the bit that stayed with me the most, you sort of know the whole episode going through it, you're gonna see the event, you're gonna see the bus event happen, but you never know when. And as soon as Graham gets up and says, right, we can go, and the Doctor sort of goes, no, we can't. If we leave, Rosa won't be asked to move because there will be enough white seats. And Graham is shocked to the core. He's just like, no, I don't want any part of this. He's got tears in his eyes. Amazing performance. And the music swells in the background. It's like, oh my god, this is it. This is history in the making. And the fact that, how good was Jodie Whittaker in that moment? Because she's there, she can't look at Rosa, she can't say no, she can't help her in any way. She even says, no, we have to not help her. And Jodie plays that to perfection, because she just sat there and you can sort of see in her head, she's thinking, I really, really want to help her. I really want to stop this, but I can't, because this is history and you can't rewrite history, not one line. And that sort of war in her head of going, no, you cannot do this, but I really want it, but you can't. She plays that to perfection, because she's just sat there. You can see it in her eyes, just it's a fantastic performance. And then when the bus driver shouts at Rosa, are you gonna move? It's just like, oh my god, it's so hard to watch, but but I cannot imagine, it puts you in the place of the Doctor and her companions, that they have to be there. If they move, history will change, and if they interfere, history will change. They have to sit there and watch this, and it's an incredibly poignant scene, you know. But when they pick her up and they take her away, and the song starts playing, "Rise Up" by what's she called? Andra Day, I think that's her name. A lot of people had a problem with that. A lot of people had a problem with pop music, and a lot of the tweets were like, "Oh, pop music and Doctor Who." It honestly sounded like a lot of old people going, "Yeah, what's this young people's music?" Yeah. Obviously, if you don't like the pop music, that's fine. That's just the general feeling I got from some of these tweets. But people sort of forgetting there was a pop song in Vincent and the Doctor. I mean, Athlete aren't a known band, but that song is... I've heard that song numerous times before and since that episode. It was a fairly recent song when Vincent and the Doctor came out, and they used it in the episode. No one seemed to have a problem with that. Plus, the lyrics relate to what is happening. Rise up. It relate to Rosa's story. It fits perfectly, in my opinion. And I researched afterwards. I sort of did some research. Apparently, that song is sort of the unofficial anthem, if you will, for the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's used in protests and things like that. And I think them using it like that, because obviously the lyrics relate to a lot of this subject matter, adds an incredible emotional weight to the scene. And it's one of my favourite scenes in the new series. Absolutely, just the way it was shot, how the characters can't really do anything, but that sort of tracking shot along as we go through we sort of see it from the window, and the Doctor's just there looking at Rosa as this incredibly emotional song's playing. It really just gives me goosebumps and chills. Actually, I've watched it twice now. It just gives me chills every time. It's just art. It's just art through moving pictures. And Graham with tears in his eyes when the cops come along, and he's just like sat there and he really wants to go and help, but he can't. And it's all in slow motion. It's all the editing sort of fragmented, and the editing sort of mirrors what's happening, because obviously it took some time for, well, I imagine it did anyway. It must have taken some time for the bus driver to ring up the cops and the cops to actually come. And that must have taken at least like 10 minutes, right? So I like that the editing is sort of fragmented there, because it mirrors the time. I imagine the time for Rosa Parks and a lot of people on that bus who couldn't do anything was fragmented and was sort of scattered and didn't feel like however long it was or however short it was, And I really, really like that little subtle bit about editing there. That whole scene was masterful. Just so well done. And then they're back on the TARDIS and they're talking about Rosa's life, and then on the scanner, the Doctor is saying, right, no, life was hard for Rosa. She lost a job, her husband lost a job. It was hard, but she kept fighting. And she was eventually awarded the medal. I can't remember what it was called now. It's probably bad of me. I'm going to have to look that up afterwards. She said the highest award given to a civilian, and the music swells me here. The Rosa's theme. Oh man, it's and the fact that it is real footage of her collecting that award, rather than Vinette Robinson in old age makeup. It just sort of, for kids, they wouldn't really have sort of thought of that, but for those mature enough to understand that is the real footage, it sort of adds that extra element of, man, this woman was just a living legend. She was just an absolute icon and so important. And then Doctor says she changed the world. In fact, she changed the universe. And she goes and looks at the asteroid. She said asteroid 24996, whatever, also known as Rosa Parks, and her theme plays in full loud glory, and it's just like, oh wow, that is such a sort of emotionally resonant moment, because that asteroid is real. That is a real asteroid that is called Rosa Parks, and it's just like, I am incredibly proud of Doctor Who for doing this, for just everything it did, everything it tackled. I'm incredibly proud of it, because there's no other show that can really, in British television, this is in sort of the high popular British television, there's no other show that can really do this. And when it ends with that beautiful shot of the Doctor and her friends just looking at the asteroid, and then we get I will rise up, and the music continues to play over the credits, which I liked. Sue me, first time since Earthshock, I think that has happened. I just think it's so important for this show to tackle, and I'm incredibly proud of Doctor Who for doing that, for doing it with such care and love and attention, and giving us a impeccably directed piece of telly, as well as tackling this, as well as giving great performances, as well as having an excellent grasp on the era and the period. We got 2 sort of songs at the beginning that were of that time, and I just think this episode will go down in history, and it absolutely should go down in history, because it is just a masterwork, and what it showed is just incredibly important, and I think it's one to be cherished. It's one I'll look back on and go, yes, this is how great Doctor Who can be. Yeah, I can't wait to see more of this series. I'm loving it. Series 11's 3 for 3. I've enjoyed every episode. Yeah, loved it. What did you think of Rosa? Bit of a heavy one, but fantastic. So what did you think of it? Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care now.